Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy March 1st. Happy Dress in Blue Day. Shout out to Anita for creating Dress in Blue Day at her son's school decades ago. It is a wonderful way of raising awareness and showing support for our colon cancer survivors and patients, and also our caregivers and medical professionals and all who we would not be here without. Welcome to Blue Couch Chat. This is a safe place, or the safe place, to talk about your shit. Not all of us have a supportive environment or a support system that we can talk about our issues with, especially when we're young and long-term survivors. People kind of just expect us to get up and move on, and life comes back to normal, and we just had a pause, and then we continue, and everything's supposed to be fine and right back to where it was. But that is not necessarily the truth. So my guest tonight is a beautiful young lady where when I was 2 years out and I didn't know anyone who was like me, I was told I was a rare case. I was a young patient. They had never seen anyone like me at 29, diagnosed in 2011 with stage 3C colon cancer. I managed to get a ticket to the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. Well, back then it was the Colon Cancer Alliance annual conference, which happened to be here in Miami. And the support group that I went to got me a ticket and a scholarship for me to go. And when I opened those doors, feeling like I was all alone, the first face I saw over 10 years ago was Phalon Urbans. And she looked just like me, young, Black, beautiful. And she, although she claims she's an introvert, invited me to sit next to her at the table and join all the other young Black women who were also survivors. And for the first time, I felt like I was no longer alone. And I had people who understood and got it. And so she is one of the crucial people of why I am where I am in my advocacy, in my survivorship, me as a person dealing with my survivorship and not feeling like I'm alone and having somebody that I can call and talk to and just shoot the shit with. Sorry, we're going to say a lot of shits on this show, but it's hard to talk about colon cancer and not talk about that. So Ellen and I are going to just shoot the breeze tonight. You're going to hear her crazy story of being diagnosed young. The title for this episode is The Falcon Within Phalon, and that's because falcons embody victory, rulership, and overcoming. And they serve also as like the bridge between land and sky and to a higher state of being, the connection to a higher state of being. And Fhalon, Phalon definitely embodies the falcon. She is victorious. She has overcome. She is resilient. She is strong. And above all that, she is genuine, transparent, and authentic. And that's why I've always loved her, and I've been honored to have her as my friend. Let's welcome Phalon to the show. Hey, Phalon, how are you?
Hello, everybody. You getting the tears started early, huh?
Yeah, I'm like tearing up already.
That's crazy. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
No, thank you, Phalon. I don't think you ever knew that you were that first face I saw, right?
You know what? It's crazy. You said that I'm the one that asked you to come and sit. That's crazy. You sure that was me?
Yes, it was you.
And it was probably that feeling you're saying how you felt, I'm thinking how I felt, and it's probably the same exact thing. So if I did it, it was probably because I'm like, I saw you too. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
just like, that was my first conference,
Mine too.
first time being there. Yeah, not knowing what was going to go on. So you naturally, you kind of flock to what is normal to you. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I'm really glad that you and I have become friends over the years.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I know you're not on social media, but we've always been connected. I mean, it
Yeah.
might not be every day, but every once in a while we'll reach out and be like, "Hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're on my mind."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think of you all the time, and our stories are so very similar. So tell us basically your cancer story and how you were diagnosed.
Yeah, it's not. I always start off by saying it's not your traditional story. None of the stories are traditional, but
No.
it's definitely not like the ones that I've heard. And I'm going to start by saying, don't do what I did. Do not do what I did. But it was something, obviously, at the age, I want to say at the age of probably like 25 is when I started having, you know, digestive type issues. But it was nothing out of the ordinary. I was just like, well, maybe I'm eating something that I shouldn't be eating. Maybe I should cut back on red meat. And I was under a lot of stress, single mom. I was in undergrad, trying to work, all that kind of stuff, all that good stuff. So I started to self-medicate, Tums, Rolaids, prebiotics, things like that. So it was kind of like a wave. It would come and go. Kind of probably fast forward a year and a half or so. After that, it started to get worse. And it seemed like I always had to go to the bathroom, but could not actually go to the bathroom.
Right.
And then I remember seeing, some blood in my stool, but it was not major. I'm like, well, maybe I have a what is it called? Oh
Like a
goodness.
groin?
No, it's more internal.
Like a fistula?
No. Oh
Polyp?
yes, I'm drawing a blank.
A
But
polyp?
oh,
Polyp? No.
mm-mm. It's more like some type of inflammation type condition but anyway, so I was like, well, that's not anything major. That's what I'm telling myself.
Mhm.
And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And I remember would go to the bathroom, and I would just be in excruciating pain. This is going to sound crazy when I say it. I did not go to the bathroom number 2 for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. The only time that I would have some type of bowel movement was when I was menstruating. That was the only time. And that was barely. And that was more blood and mucus mixed, TMI, I know. But
Never TMI.
okay.
No, never TMI.
Yeah, so that was the only time. I was bloated. I kind of fast forwarding to when it actually happened, which was 2010. That June, I had gone to see my friend because my birthday was in June, and I was wearing a size 1. Okay, so from, I think, maybe earlier that year, I was in a 9-10.
Right.
And so I lost so much weight, and it was not almost like you're working out, losing weight, right? No,
Right.
you're like, and my brother actually said to me, he was like, you don't need to lose any more weight. And then I was like, oh my goodness, people are noticing that something, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have insurance. Again, I was in undergrad. I didn't have a job at the time. And so I was scared to go to emergency because honestly, I felt like I would be misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And so August came, and I remember praying, and I said, just let me get my son in school, who at the time was in second grade. And I was like, let me get my son in school, Lord. I will go to emergency. And the crazy part is I had just got a job. I was temping, and then that person, somebody disappeared, and then they just moved me right into that position. So I had gotten a job where the insurance starts immediately. And so I prayed and I said, let me just get him here in school and I will go. Well, school started and I didn't go. And so the Lord was like, I got to make her go because she's not going to do it. And so his principal called me and said, and I'm like, why is this lady calling me? She's like, Amir is such a beautiful child. If you ever need anything, I am going to be here for you. I'm going to be here for him. I'm going to make sure he's good. And I'm thinking, don't you got other kids to call? Like, why are you calling me about my son? You know, and little did I know, you know, that she was going to play a pivotal role in everything, you know. So I had fallen asleep and I was woken up back. I was like hot on the inside, cold on the outside. And I was like, what is going on? And all I could do was scream. Right. My son called his dad. His dad came. He was like, Fallon, we got to go to the emergency room. And I was like, I don't want to go. And he was like, because I knew it was getting ready to get real. You know what I mean? And I was like, I do not want to die. Because when everything, like the pain, the sickness, everything got worse. And I always tell my mom, I would go home and I would get in the shower and I would say, Lord, I'm dying. I am dying. That is what, if I'm sure there's people out there that probably know and understand. It's like my body, I could feel my body separating from myself. I could feel it. And I was like, I'm dying, you know? And so I went to and he was like, if you don't get up, I'm calling the ambulance, you know? And crazy, like you. Yeah. Oh, did you disappear?
Okay. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're unfrozen. You're good. You hearing?
Are you there?
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I was like, let me go and get myself together because I can't go looking crazy. So I did that before I went in. So went right in and they're like, well, what's going on? And the first question they asked, they said, do you have insurance? And so I was like, yes, I work at Purdue University. And they were like, okay, good. You know, so they knew. And so they ended up doing I told them I had a fever. They did my fever. They checked for my fever. It was almost 105. Okay. Never got any medication for the fever. Never got any cold pack, nothing. They said, well, is there anything else going on? And I said, well, I've been having stomach issues. And they said, okay, so they did a vaginal scan and so she was like, are you pregnant? And I was like, no, I know of. Like, I shouldn't be. And then she was like, something is in there. And whatever she was using, it was hitting it. And it created, I started bleeding internally. And so they were like, yeah, something is going on, but we don't know what, but we got to give you, oh Lord, we have to give you blood transfusion. And so they gave me the allotted amount that you could get because it was just that bad. Before they could transport me, they had to, you know, get me together. Right. So my stomach started really distending because I was bleeding internally. And so they were like, well, we have to, you know, get you going. And so and so I was transported to the big hospital, and OBGYN oncologist came in, and she said, she was like, I don't know who you need to call, but you need to call somebody right now because you're getting ready to have emergency surgery. She said at the least you'll have a partial hysterectomy, but at the most it'll be a full total hysterectomy. And I was like, okay. So I called my mama and I told her, I'm getting ready to have surgery. I love you. Bye. She was like, wait, what? Click. I called work and I told them because I had just gotten hired. I was like, I'm about to have surgery. I didn't, my ex had taken my son away because I guess in his head, he didn't want him to see me, and all that. But in my head, I needed to hug him. I needed to say, comfort him or whatever, but I didn't. And all I could do was tell my ex, tell him I love him, tell him I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Because I had no idea what was getting ready to happen, whether I was going to come out.
Right.
Obviously I still cry. That's the part I cry about all the time, even though the child is 21 now, but it's still just like, that is the part that I remember the most. And so came out of surgery. I want to say the surgery, they said should have only been a couple hours, but it was hours, like 6, because it was the wrong surgeon. I did not get a hysterectomy.
Right.
And so I came out with cancer and a colostomy bag. And yeah.
And how old were you?
I was 29, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so our stories, it's crazy because you're talking and our stories are so similar.
Mm-hmm.
So you were a year ahead of me, but
Yeah.
we were diagnosed at the same age.
Yeah.
I was stage 3C at 29 in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just finishing my undergrad when
Yeah.
I was diagnosed. And then just like you, I did an exploratory surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they found cancer. So I went into it unknown and ended up with the ostomy. So, it's crazy. So how long did you have the ostomy? And if you can talk about your treatment as well.
Yeah, so treatment was about, I want to say it was almost a year. And then I also did radiation because I had more rectal. And so obviously, with that, I had, lymph nodes affected, female parts affected. So they took, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, like I had a lot of my stuff because I don't know if I want to. I remember a doctor reading my transcript and I was like, whoa, it's like, I don't want to know. When they tell you, oh, we got to do this to save her. Oh, she might code and all of that. Like, I don't want to hear it. So some of the stuff is, I don't remember it all, but I know I lost, what was it, 15 feet of intestine is missing. My rectum is short. I had to do radiation because it was so low. They wanted to make sure that it got everything. And they didn't tell you that you wouldn't be able to have kids again. You find that out at the end when you're like, okay, well, maybe I have I got this new life. And they're like, no, that's not happening. So, and that was because of the radiation.
Right.
And then the colostomy bag, I had the longest, so about a year. And then from the colostomy, because of the radiation's damage, he wanted to do an ileostomy because he was afraid if he just connected it back, I would get an infection. And he said, if you get the infection, you will not be here. And I got the infection, but I had the but that's why he gave me the ileostomy. And so the ileostomy was, I think it was a couple months, but it was the worst. I applaud people who have those for life. It was if anything messed with my mental state, it was having that ileostomy. But see, I'm all connected back now. So, but not without issues, right? Because you can't have that type of surgery and not have issues. So
So you're saying that the ileostomy was actually harder than the ostomy itself, the
Yeah.
colostomy?
Yes, for me. And my mom, oh Lord, woo! I mean, she could tell a story like it just constantly just liquid. You know, you can't even get the new system on because it's just, and it
Yeah,
was like I she saw firsthand, you know, what that was like. And I prefer the colostomy over the ileostomy for sure. So
that's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, like, I guess it's good to hear that, as weird as it sounds, it's good to hear someone who I find is so strong and who is so similar to me say that she had the same issues with the ostomy, because that was, like, the hardest part for me. Like, chemo,
Mhm.
I did that like a champ, and it was hard, but,
Yeah.
like, I soldiered through. But that
Yeah.
ostomy, like, me and my mom, we had a code. I would just call her and be like, "Mom," like a baby, like,
Mhm.
"Mom." And
Yeah.
that was a day where I just couldn't handle it, and I needed her to do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were days like that where I just didn't wanna deal. So,
Yeah.
I get you, and, I think that's why it's so important that we share our stories, not just with other people, but also with each other,
Yeah.
because, like, now, like, I'm realizing that we're even more alike than I
Mhm.
thought, like, in our
Mhm.
journey and our struggles and where we are
Mhm.
now. So, how are you now? How's your life going? Tell me about your son, like, let's up. I wanna know where you're at now.
Yeah, you know, life has had its ups and downs, but you push through. And again, I always think, if I made it through that, and I constantly try and tell myself like I made it through that. And it's God's grace, God's mercy, God's miracle. The cancer, the way what I had, where it was, how it was, I should not be here. That's just what it is. And so with life, I try, and I'm not gonna lie, I have my moments. We talked earlier, I have my moments where it's not the best. And one of the things we talked about was, you there's beautiful parts to what we've gone through, especially when you see the survivors,
Right.
but the reality of it is that there's not so pretty parts to it, and that also needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed, and it's okay. Like, I am human. Like, I get to be angry that this happened. I'm not supposed to stand in it forever, but I get to be angry. I get to cry. I get to be sad. I get to have a moment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, I've had moments. Being diagnosed had me in a chokehold for many, many years. I did not move from it. I still mothered as much as I could, to make sure, because I was still raising a person that, I was given responsibility for.
Right.
And so I did that, but I neglected myself. And so, but there was also moments where I was like, nope, I got this. I'm going to do this. I went back to school, got my master's. My son graduated, which is something that was really important to me. I got to see that. You know what I mean? He's staying 6'4". You know what I mean? He's a little skinny thing, but he's handsome. He's going to school. He's working, and so I'm getting to see that, and I'm happy. I'm happy about that. So while everything is not perfect or where I am, sometimes I'm like, no, I should be doing more. No, I'm where I'm at, and I'm learning. I've learned so much over over the years, over the time. I've learned my weaknesses. I've learned my strengths.
Yeah.
And so that helped. All that sadness. Don't be worried about the sadness, y'all. Like, it's okay, because it's gonna propel you. It's
Right.
gonna help. That is what helps build us.
Right.
It's not just roses and pretty colors. That's
Yeah.
not life.
Sunshine and unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah. No, that's not real. And that'll hurt you. And I'm only speaking from experience. It'll hurt you.
Yeah.
It'll hurt you. So, you know, life is lifing. You
Right.
know, it's good and bad parts to it. You know, I was telling you that I don't do as much as I used to, because I hit the ground running when I got sick, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to advocate. But what I realized is that, and let me make sure that I say this right. While I was wanting to pour into other people by sharing my story and things like that, I was neglecting pouring into myself. You know, how can I give somebody something that I'm not giving myself? That's not real.
Right.
That's fake. You know what I mean? I can't stand on the stage and tell somebody, you know, this and that and blah blah blah, and then I'm crying behind the scenes. Like, so I wanted to make sure I was okay. So when I do go out, I'm, you know, I'm ready. And you're gonna see the real, you're gonna hear the real me, and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna help.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully I'll get back out there. Y'all know y'all don't see me that much, you know, but I'm around.
I
I'm
mean, one thing that I had a existential crisis at 10 years. It was almost like a midlife crisis.
mm-hmm.
Now I'm having a midlife crisis, and I totally want to buy like the sports car with the convertible and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
like I kind of want like the convertible Bronco and have my
Yeah.
surfboards, paddle boards in the back with my two dogs. But
Yeah.
like, my existential crisis at 10 years out, which was 2 years ago, was Fallon. Like, I'm 10 years out. Why am I still sharing my story? Why am I
Mhm.
still trying to be an advocate? Why am I still fighting to have my voice heard?
Yeah.
And I realized that 10 years ago when you and I met, those 10-year survivors were who gave us hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're those 12-year survivors
Yeah.
giving others hope,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized that it was because we had lost so many wonderful people in
Yeah.
like the space of a year during COVID, and then it was COVID, and it was just hard. And then I
Yeah.
was saying, and then it was crazy because it was like after I prayed to God about it, I got
Yeah.
all these crazy opportunities to be on the local news. Like during COVID, I was
Yeah.
on the local news after Chadwick died. I was in newspaper
Mhm.
articles. I was in Colon Club, and all this like wonderful stuff just dropped in my lap. And I realized that I'm not doing the advocacy because I want the attention. I'm
Yeah.
doing the advocacy because I want to help others, because like you, I went through it alone, not knowing
Mhm.
anybody else. And when I saw your face, it clicked. Like, I'm not the only freaking one going through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, social media wasn't what it is now. We didn't have lives, and we didn't have Facebook like
Yeah.
this, YouTube and all of that. And so like now I realize, and then it was also, I think as advocates, we're always fighting to have our story heard. We're
Yeah.
pitching ourselves to these organizations to have our story heard. But you have thousands of survivors, and these
Mhm.
organizations pick like maybe 12 stories to share for the year, maybe
And
less.
they're survivors with different stories. This is
Right,
not a one size fits all.
right,
You know what
right,
I mean? Like, I hear stories. I remember being at one of the conferences, and I heard a story of someone saying um how they had family, like they were able to, take off their job, and their
right.
family was there, and blah blah blah, and it was just, they went through it. Even I'm thinking, and I stood up and I said, that is not everybody's story. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I was evicted.
yeah,
Okay, I was
yeah,
evicted. My son, I couldn't feed my child.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean that my story shouldn't be heard, because not only people with money are not the only people that get sick. You know
right,
what I'm saying? So
right.
we gotta be able to touch everybody.
And so,
And go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was
Sorry.
just saying, somebody, when you have all these other disadvantages, financial, no job, children, you want to see somebody or hear their story and be like, oh wow, she made it. I can make it too. Because
Mhm.
when you have all those issues coupled together, your mental is just gonna give up. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean?
for sure.
And so it's important that we hear other people's stories, not the ones that just look good or sound good.
Or sound sad so they get
Yeah,
funding. Right,
exactly.
right. And
So,
that's why I created this space, was one, because it's important. We have podcasts about colon cancer, right? We had
mhm,
Lee's podcast, the colon cancer podcast, which became the We Have Cancer podcast.
mhm,
Trevor has the Man Up to Cancer podcast, but we don't have a YouTube specifically for colon cancer.
mhm,
And yes, I'm focusing on the minority, the underserved, the vulnerable populations, but you know what? When you think about all those populations, it's a very diverse group of people who are high risk and
mhm,
underrepresented or not
mhm.
represented at all.
Yeah.
And so I created this space, and my whole promise, I don't know if you heard it, but anyone who comes at me and emails me at bluecouchchat@outlook.com and wants to share their story or reaches out to me on any of my social medias, their story will be shared, because every story is important.
Mhm,
Every voice is important. And
mhm,
every story and every voice can touch at least one person in an instrumental way that could change the entire trajectory of their
yeah,
life or their survivorship. And so, I'm glad that you said that, because it is important. It is so important that we see, like I started off my live stream with Lee as my first episode, and he passed away 5 days later. That's the reality of this disease. But
yeah,
so are you. So
yeah,
am I. There are
yeah,
so many different realities. It's not just doom and gloom, but it's also
yeah,
not sunshine and rainbows. There's
right,
so much in between, and we're all the shit in between.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That's what we experience. And so I'm really glad that, Lee encouraged me to create this platform, because we can also, Fallon, reach people worldwide with
yeah,
our stories who don't necessarily have the support that we get here in this country.
yeah,
So that's why, like, this is totally out of my comfort zone. And I have to I'm going to be transparent. I have to take an anxiety pill every time before I do this, because I get anxious and I get nervous. But I know that I have to do this.
yeah,
And this, honestly, for me, is my self-care. Like,
yeah,
if I didn't have to get up and do this today, Fallon, I would have been laying in my bed in pain from endometriosis. I
yeah,
wouldn't have done my makeup. I wouldn't have done my hair. Probably wouldn't have showered. I probably wouldn't have brushed my teeth. I
yeah,
probably would have worn blue,
yeah,
although my pajamas
yeah,
are, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
this forced me to get up and show up
yeah,
and to be here. And I'm just grateful for it all. And I'm grateful that I get to have you on here tonight. Like, I I've missed you,
yeah, me
like,
too. Yeah,
really missed you, and we don't have, the same, conferences where we would normally see each other, so it's harder for us to connect, but I am so glad that we have this platform where, we can connect with each other and we can be there
yeah,
for other people too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I hope to get back out, and it's kind of like, you know, like you said, the reality of this is you lose people,
Yeah,
and so I always felt, I was telling my mom, I was like, every day it seemed like somebody was passing away.
yeah,
And because whether it's been one day or 10 years, I still struggle with this mentally,
yeah,
you know, and it takes your youth. You know what I mean? I was a little fresh back then. You know what I mean? And it kind of like it messed with that. And so, not to say that I don't have much more life to live, but I still struggle with this. So for me, sometimes I'm like, I can't see it. I can't, or go to a conference, and the next thing you know, that person that you connected with, and that happened a couple of times, for me. And I was just like, I have to disconnect for a while.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It does not mean, again, that does not mean that I'm not advocating. Advocating is big or small.
right,
It doesn't matter. It just means that for me, in order to do it, I gotta make sure I'm okay as
yeah.
well.
You have
So
to fill your cup
yeah,
before you can fill others, and you have to put on your oxygen mask before you can help somebody
yeah,
else. That's what they always say. But when I lost Lee on Valentine's Day, I lost another close friend the day after. And I've been struggling ever since. And I don't really have anyone that I can talk to because they don't really understand that it's not, everybody in my family, they're just like, well, death is a part of life. Like at 42, I shouldn't be losing this many friends to this disease. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And no matter how old they are or how young, it just should not be happening. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to deal with. It's really hard to understand, like, I don't question God, but at the same time, it's like, God, tell me my purpose of why I'm here so I can fulfill it.
Yeah.
You
For
know?
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I know that there has to be a purpose why I'm here because like you, there's so many there's like, we're not supposed to be here. Like
Yeah.
straight up, according to
Yeah.
canon science, we're not supposed to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah.
Absolute miracles. But I
So
just
what is it? What am I supposed to be doing? Yeah. And you're figuring it out. You know what I mean? You're doing it. And I love that you said that you you push through mentally in order to start what you started. And I know a lot of people tell me, write a book. A lot of people tell me, like what you're doing. I'm like, nah, that ain't me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just, I don't think I could do it. Or am I setting myself up saying I can't do it when I can? And so either my purpose is there and I'm just choosing not to fulfill it, which could be,
right.
or I just haven't figured it out yet. So
Yeah.
I applaud you for stepping out and stepping out on faith too to do what you need to do.
Well, I have to give praises to God, and I have to give thanks to Lee because Lee pushed me for like over 8 years. I mean, from the
Yeah.
first time we met, he's like, "You need to be an advocate. You need to share your story." And then he was talking about doing a podcast, and then I was like, "Why not a YouTube so people can actually see what I look like and that I look like them?"
Yeah.
And see my emotions, see when I cry, and not me just say, "Oh, I'm crying,"
Yeah.
see the tears, see
Yeah.
me, my eyes, getting misty or, see the smiles and the laughs. But it also, it was out of my comfort zone. And I used to be really shy and I still suffer from social anxiety, believe it or not.
Mhm.
But it's like once I get around my cancer peeps, then I'm like, it's actually getting there that I have the problem with. And then once I'm there, I'm like, oh, what was I scared of? Like these are the
Yeah.
people I love,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of weird, but I definitely have to give thanks to Lee for pushing me because a year ago he actually gave me a free ticket to Podfest and he was like, "You don't have an excuse this year. There is a video track for people who want to do live streams in YouTube and you need to go." And that's really when it started to click and I started putting my studio together and all of that. And then I just had to fast forward everything that I was totally postponing
Yeah.
because of his situation. And I was like, I need to do this now if I want him to
Yeah.
be able to do what I'm doing, what he pushed me to do.
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm at now. And, I still struggle mentally. I struggle with depression. I struggle with anxiety. I
Yeah.
struggle with survivor's guilt. And I had to be gentle on myself and accept the fact that that is normal and
Yeah.
that grieving my friends and taking it hard is normal. And I
Yeah.
need to be gentle on myself. And I, I've also realized, I don't know if you knew, but basically, anxiety and depression are a normal side effect of having cancer.
Oh yeah, I definitely know that. Yeah. But
And
we
they
act
don't
like
know
it's not, right? Like you act like it's something so out of, because I think, the stigmas on
that.
depression, like I don't know, I think it was my mom who said, this depression is just a disruption
Yes,
of life. You
yes,
know what I'm saying? So I think it's the stigmas that make us not really realize things, or you feel guilty for feeling those things. And again, that's a setup, because we're told that we got to be positive in order to make it through life.
exactly.
And I always say that is not true. I made it and I'm over a 10-year cancer survivor, and I cussed everybody out at the hospital every day. was not positive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, I just think yes, you want to have, you always want to have a positive outlook on life, but you also, but there's a flip side to this. You know, there's a, you know, something on every side of the coin, good and bad. So, you know, I think accepting that things are wrong or things are not right or you're not feeling quite right, I think people would actually be better off doing that
Right.
than to fake it, you know, faking it till they make it. So, you know, I mean, even talking to you earlier before we started and hearing some of the stomach issues and things that, you know, that is what's missing. And I think that's what's missing for me because I am so to myself. I think that talking to people who have gone through similar things will help me understand. Number one, you do not always have to think because your stomach hurts that the cancer is back, which I'm sure I'm not the only person that thinks that way. You know what I mean? But hearing some of the diagnoses that you've had, I'm like, oh wow, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's probably what I get. You know what I'm saying? So I think even if I don't do, you know, conferences and things like that, I think staying connected with people is going to be helpful to me. Um,
Yeah. And
moving forward. So,
I can see you helping others the way that you've helped me, and we were basically going through the same shit at the same time, you
yeah,
know? So
yeah,
it's like I kind of
yeah,
feel like we were holding hands without realizing that we were holding hands.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know, but it's funny because I always saw you like you were diagnosed like way before me because you're just pushing through so much that I looked at you and I was like, okay, Fallon is doing this. I can get through this. You know, and
Wow,
you're ahead of me, but it was like you were like my big sister, like,
wow,
you know, like guiding me through. And you know, I would, you know, when you were on social media, like I would keep track and I'm like, okay, Fallon can do this, I can do this, I got this, I got this. And
yeah.
you know, I also agree, like, we can go to conferences and we can support each other because supporting each other is also helping ourselves. Like, this whole conversation with you, like, I don't know if it's helped you, but it's helped me so much.
Yeah, you did you just hear me say I said it really opened my eyes because it's just
Yeah,
like this is the support. I can't do the big like you know, again, I'm to myself, but it's like, no, I need to be able to talk to people who, and so even if that's the one on one, and then hearing some of the issues that you had, I mean, it's helped me even in
yeah.
even in this hour. You know, I feel better. I had a tough week, y'all. You know, so hearing you, you know, and some of the issues and realizing like you're okay. You just might
Yeah.
have to what did we call it? Gastroparesis. I wrote that down. I wrote that down so I can, you know, talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the support that I'm
Right.
talking about. I need instead of me disappearing completely because that's just how I am. I need to still connect one on one if that's what works for me. You know?
Yeah. And we can still be besties. I mean, you can
Yeah.
call me anytime. You know, I
Right.
love you.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and I mean, it's crazy because, you know, with my gastroparesis, I was misdiagnosed for about 6 years with that, and they were ready to take out my gallbladder because that's what it seemed like. And then I happened
Mm.
to run into my geneticist, who is also a GI, didn't even recognize him, and he was like, "So how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm okay." And he's like, "And how are you health-wise?" And I'm like, "I'm okay." And he's like, "No, really, what's going on?" He's like, "You have to have something going on." And I'm like, "Who the heck is this doctor talking to me?" Didn't remember him because like
Yeah.
5 years after I did my genetic testing with him and spit in a tube. And I was like, "Well, I've been having digestive issues, of course, and they want to take out my gallbladder." And he's like, I wouldn't do that until you come and see me. Not
Okay.
with he's like, "I wouldn't do that with all the digestive issues you have and your shortened colon and all of that." And I was like, "This dude remembered my entire medical history basically, and I forgot who he was."
Wow.
So I went and saw him, and he spent about a year and ran tests, and turned out that I have gastroparesis. So my digestive system, especially my stomach, is slower. And I asked him what could have caused it. Could it be my chemo? And I'm like, sorry to ask a stupid question, but could this be because of my chemo? And he's like, why do you think it's a stupid question? I'm like, because I'm not a doctor. Like what we're taught, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, you might not be a doctor, but you're very smart. What's your reasoning? And I was like, well, my peripheral neuropathy is because of chemo, the platinum-based oxaliplatin damaged my nerves. So I'm thinking my digestive system is run and ruined, like ruled by my vagus nerve. And so if I have peripheral neuropathy, my vagus nerve might have been damaged. And if that's the case, that would explain the food moving slow, me not being able to digest, things like that. And he was like, well, your reasoning sounds very good medically. Let's look it up. And he looked it up and he looked up Volvox. And one of the side effects is digestive motility issues, which is basically moving slow. And so it all made sense. And ever since then, it's like I found new ways to manage that. And this has been I have not had a flare. Normally with gastroparesis, I'd end up in the hospital and not be able to keep water or anything down. That has not happened for about 2 years at least.
Okay.
And
Wow.
that used to happen to me at least once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been like game changing for me, just by advocating for myself and asking questions.
Yeah.
So, I that's why I feel like the support is important because I doubt anybody realizes this whole gastroparesis thing or the digestive issues and that there are medications that can help that have little side effects.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the side effect of my antidepressant and my anxiety medication that help my digestion is that my
Yeah.
moods are better,
Yeah.
and I'm more chill. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and it's very low dose and it's helped all the issues that I have. But
Yeah.
those are things that, I think it really is helpful, even with the depression and the anxiety that we go through, or just feeling lost in life. Like, we can't think like normal 40 somethings. Like, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, like, what am I going to do for retirement? How long am
Right.
I going to be able to travel?
Right.
All the chronic pain I have. What's my my quality of life going to be like in 10 years?
I literally tell people that all the time. I'm like, if this is how I feel at this age, what is it gonna be like in 10, 15 more years? You know what I'm saying? And that's really scary.
Yeah.
That's scary. A lot of the digestive issues that I have, I'm like, am I gonna, you know, my surgeon was like, have diapers on hand. And I'm like, I will not. Like, so my question is always like, well, what if when I'm 50, will I? You know?
I
So
mean, I do have those issues. I did buy myself a big box of Depends for my 40th birthday.
no.
So, I did. I just like you, if I have to go number 2, there is no holding it. I have to find somewhere and go. It's not that I'm gonna poop myself in 2 seconds, but it's excruciating, and if it's diarrhea, I can't hold it.
Can't hold exactly.
And I
Yeah.
also now have urinary incontinence a lot of times because I'm not able to feel when my bladder is full. So I
Mhm.
literally have to go although I don't feel like going, and that's a new thing that I'm trying to deal with. And then I have the endometriosis, so there are times that I bleed like crazy, so it's easier to have Depends than to have to worry about pads and leaking
Mhm.
and all of that. So I've just come to the point of I'm gonna be 42 in 20 days, and I wear Depends from time to time. And it's you know what? But I'm alive, and
Yeah.
I don't have an ostomy, and I
Yeah.
have to take the things that come with it. I choose the pens over an ostomy any day.
Yeah. That post or survivor care, that's the
Yeah,
hardest.
yeah,
Because they know what to do as far as giving you the chemo, the radiation. They know that part of medicine.
right,
They don't know. They can't tell you anything post that. They
right.
can't tell you anything. You have to research yourself. I still, even after I tell my story, I still they hand me a pamphlet for more fiber.
Yeah,
And I'm like, no, fiber does the opposite for me. It constipates
exactly,
me. And
exactly.
I had one it was a GI doctor, and after he did my colonoscopy, he came in and he said, do you have issues going to the bathroom, and I was like, all the time I have to do the cha-cha in order on the
Right.
toilet in order to go. And he was like, I'm sure that whoever did your surgery did what they needed to do to, to save you. He said, but if a normal system is this way, he said,
Yeah.
yours is this way.
Right.
Everything is backwards. And I can tell that I can't do roughage. I can't do, fiber type things because it causes the opposite for me. So it's like when you see all these rises in early onset where you see young people being diagnosed and nobody is telling them what to do, if they want to have kids or,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, when does medicine catch up?
Right.
Hello, it's here. It's not going anywhere. When are you going to catch up so that I don't have to continue to go to the doctor and tell my story over and over again for you to finally get it? And you can then come to me with some real solutions. Because
Right.
like you said, we are not doctors.
Right.
But it's almost like we are because we've learned so much. We should probably start our own practice.
We should. We should.
We know enough at this point. Shoot, we don't need the degree right now.
Right. We've learned through experience, not through
Yeah.
books. And
Yeah.
I agree with you, and the thing that worries me is that this is happening younger and younger now. When we were diagnosed, we were the babies.
Mm-hmm.
But now the babies who had this are babies.
Yep.
They're toddlers, they're 9-year-olds, they're 15-year-olds. And
Yeah.
how are we going to solve this issue? But that's why I created this channel, and that's why I have the gold and the blue, is to symbolize that colon cancer is becoming a childhood disease, and to raise the alarm on it. And, like your son, he's going to have to get testing. Like, he should have been done a colonoscopy already.
Yeah, he was actually recently sick. He has not had the colonoscopy, but that is on our list to do. But he, this was probably the first time that he was sick, and I was just like, what is really going on? And he's better. What did they do? So of course I'm asking him when he goes to the bathroom, anything, you see any blood in your stool, any mucus? And he's just like, no. I was like, let me see, so I will even go in and check, and I'm going to continue to do that. But they did a swab to check to see if there was any, any blood or anything in his stool. And
Right.
so it wasn't, because it does worry me. I did not have genetic mutations, you know what I mean? But it's still kind of like, anytime he says his stomach is hurting, I was actually crying in the emergency room, and I told the lady, I was like, I need you to pay attention to what he's saying. Do not just sweep this under the rug, because I am a cancer survivor, and so I'm so afraid, And so I know she was looking at me like I'm crazy, but I was so scared, because he's, close to the age that I started getting sick.
Right.
And when you think about when they tell you how long it takes for, cancer, to finally become cancer, that put me probably like 18, 19 years old.
Right.
And I had a child in between that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So because nobody's looking for it. If you're young, you're healthy. That's what they tell you.
Especially when we look healthy. Like, yeah. I think some doctors still expect that if we're going to be sick, we're going to look like we're dying. Yeah. And we didn't look like we were dying. Like, at any point in our journey, we never looked like we were dying.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Only at the beginning. Yeah. I was, you 110 pounds, that don't look good. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, but yeah, anything, like, once everything got better, you go to the doctor, and they're like, no, you definitely wasn't sick. Right. No, you couldn't have had that. I did. My records. So right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just want people to be aware too that, like I said, that this can happen to children. So like you do with your child, that's what I want for us to advocate for.
Yeah.
One, if you're 45 or older, you need to do a colonoscopy. If you have family history or any symptoms, you might need to do it sooner than 45. If
Yeah.
you're African American, Black, or African descent, I honestly think you should do it at 40. And
Yeah.
if if you are a survivor, or if you have kids and you're not a survivor, check your kids' stool. Tell them
Please.
what normal stool looks like, what normal stool feels like. They should not be hurting to go like we were. They should
Mhm.
not be constipated. They should not have diarrhea. And
Yeah.
sometimes they might not have any symptoms at all. Like for me
Right.
at 17, it started with just a stomach ache, and then it came with the blood in the stool later on.
Yeah.
So even if your child has a persistent stomach ache, advocate for your child.
Yeah.
Children are considered vulnerable in the medical industry because
Mhm.
they can't advocate for themselves. So
Yeah.
as parents, please be educated and know how to advocate for your child and know what the symptoms are, no matter what age,
Yeah.
because this is happening, like I said, to kids
Yeah.
9, 10, 13, 15, 17, 18. You
Yeah.
know, you and I had symptoms since we were teens.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
probably would have been diagnosed with an earlier stage.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, because we're both long-term survivors, that it is absolutely crucial that we follow up with all of our testing, especially as women. We
Yeah.
need to do our mammograms. We need to do our pap smears.
Yeah.
I do endometrial biopsies because I've had endometrial polyps in the past and I have endometriosis. So I also do ultrasounds.
Yeah.
But do our colonoscopies when we're supposed to. I actually advocated for every year. So for
Yeah.
the past 12 years, I've been doing one every year.
Yeah.
You So
And I did skip. I was just gung ho on it. And then it was like one year I was just like, I'm exhausted.
yeah,
It seemed like I turned this way, I went, it's like it was just coming back to back. And I was just like, I'm exhausted. I need to take a break, and I did. I
right.
did. Now, I would suggest taking a break if it looks like you can, right? If there's no, if you it's really up to you. You know what I mean? If you feel okay about it. I had my oncologist tell me, she was like, if you skip a few years, this is what she said, and you're good with it, your blood work is good. She was like, that's okay. I definitely don't want to go more than a couple years, but also feel like my surgeon, and again, this is just opinion based. He felt like sometimes you can work yourself up getting sick. And because of the type of sickness we had, this is going to cause stress and anxiety every single time. So he's like, don't feel like you always have to put yourself through that. Again, if you are having symptoms, if you're sick, you definitely want to, get your testing done. But also feel okay if you want to give yourself a little break, a year is 365 days, and as fast as these years are going by, you won't even notice.
Right. Right.
But again, that's just my opinion. Do what you need to do, what makes you feel comfortable.
I mean, for me, my choice is because I've never had a clean colonoscopy. I've had every type of polyp throughout
Yeah.
every part of my colon and rectum from beginning
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
end. And that's every year. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, having the digestive issues,
Yeah.
doing the colonoscopy every year and an MRI every year, at least when I have the 2 weeks of diarrhea, I'm like, well, I just had a colonoscopy like 5 months ago and I have one due
Right.
like 7.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
gives me that peace of
That
mind.
peace of
So
mind. Yeah.
it is tiring to be seeing my doctors all the time and doing all these tests.
Yeah.
But the peace of mind that it gives me is the biggest like reward for
Yeah.
going through all of that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's why I do it. And but I agree, sometimes we do need a break.
Yeah.
But there's also like, getting the help with the mental health aspect of it, I find helps me to
Yeah.
deal with the medical fatigue. I call it
Yeah.
survivorship fatigue.
Yeah.
And then it's also hard. I want to go back to like what we were talking about before, is that we're young, but we're not the typical 42 or 43-year-old. Like
Yeah.
we have been through so much. Our body has been through so much. And every day, like, people want us to just pick up and just forget talking about our colon cancer, but you know what? Or our
Yeah.
colorectal cancer. But it affects us every day down to what just something as simple as what groceries I buy and what I
Yeah.
decide to eat
Yeah. Yeah.
or drink.
Yeah.
You know, it still affects me every day, just in that little manner, but that is so huge.
Yeah. Just
I
because they say,
salad.
you
I
know,
want to eat
you're
a
cancer.
salad.
Yeah. I mean, just because they tell you you're cancer free, that is not the end, people. Like it's, and not trying to, be mean about it, but it's just like, if I, same as somebody break their leg, they got to go to, PT.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So that they can learn. They might walk with a limp, or they might have to get a boot that evens something out. So it doesn't end for people who post treatment. It's like you're running this race and everybody's next to you, and then as soon as you ring the bell and as soon as you're done, it's just like, well, wait a minute, you're on a track by yourself. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And so, you know, eh, it's lifelong. That's all I can say. It's
it
lifelong.
is.
It's not.
And
It gets better. It gets better, but it's still there. You deal with the side effects, and the side effects are not pretty. I always tell some people, I'm like, I tell you parts of it, and the parts that I don't are the saddest parts for me, and that's what I kind of keep to myself. Of
you
the after effects of this. So
you have me to share the hard parts with because I'm probably experiencing the same hard parts, so we
yeah,
can cry together.
yeah,
Um, because, like, as I was telling you, I was just diagnosed with arthritis in my hip, probably from the chemo, and I'm in chronic pain in my hip. And that's, I love to travel, I love to walk, I love to paddleboard, I just found surfing. And you're telling me I might not be able to do these things. I already have to give up my career because I can't climb a ladder or climb on a roof or climb upstairs as a
yeah,
construction manager with arthritis in my hip.
yeah,
It was already a risk with a peripheral neuropathy. So it's
yeah,
like, how much of my life is this going to take up? And I worried about my mental health because I was so focused on my career being the one thing cancer didn't take from me.
hmm,
And so when that I had to let that go, I thank God for him giving me this to take its place because this is so much bigger than what I was waiting for.
yeah,
And it's just God. Like, it's just God and just, like, guiding me to be
yeah,
here. And
yeah.
and I'm grateful because this has more than filled the void. I am happier than I've ever been my entire life. I can't ever remember being this happy.
Yeah,
It says a lot, and
because
I
you're doing for yourself and you're doing for others, and that's
yeah,
actually what this life is about. You know what I mean? It's selfless. You find joy when you volunteer.
right,
When you help somebody and you see that they've made it. That's, to me,
right,
that's what life is supposed to be about.
right. I mean, like,
So that's why you feel that way.
I do. I mean, you can tell, like, I haven't stopped. I mean, we've been crying, but I'm
Right.
still smiling when I'm crying, and it's just this, like, meeting up with my friends and talking to my friends and just shooting the breeze and talking about what we've been through. Like, it fills me up so much because it's like it reminds me, Shannon, you're not alone. It reminds me, Shannon, like so many others, you have survived. And then, speaking to you, who I admire so much, like, I can't get over your face when I walked into the room and just seeing you, and I was like, "Oh my god," because like, we were 2 of, like, the only young people there,
Yeah.
right? Like, everyone
Yeah.
else was diagnosed young, but they were
Yeah.
long-term survivors. You and I were, like, the 2 baby newbies.
Right.
How I
Exactly.
put it. And so, the way that it was like I walked into the door and, like, I was just drawn to you, and I was like, "Oh my god, I am not freaking alone." Like,
Yeah.
it changed everything for me. It was like this light clicked and I realized, like, okay, I need to find others who are like us and I need to connect. And those
Mhm.
connections have been so instrumental in me being where I am right now and being able to ride that learning curve as a survivor, right? Like it's an infinite learning curve. And
Yep.
then it's like, and then there's curveballs thrown in there with
Yep.
other crap that just comes up 10 years later. And you're like,
Exactly.
where did this come from?
Yeah. Yeah. It's forever changing. You know what I mean? And it's just like you got to prepare yourself to be ready. I mean, and obviously over the last 10, 12 years, I think we've done that. But it's, it's definitely a ride. It's a
It
journey. It's a
is.
true journey, and it is a crazy ride.
It
It's a
is.
crazy ride. A
But you know what?
good, sometimes good ride. You know what I mean? But sometimes not so good. But we laugh about it. We laugh and we cry about it.
We
And
have
that's balance.
it is. And I'm glad that you and I are riding that curve together. And I hope that we keep in contact more because I'm really bad at that.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
work on
me
that.
too. Me too. I only feel like I have capacity for, a few things. And like I told you before, my personal life is just it's 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 weird because I think getting sick made me very controlling. You know what I mean? So I feel like I focus on that a lot. Like everything has to be right or a certain way. So I've lost that fun. I don't have a fun bone anymore, but I'm hoping
I'm
I
sure
found
you
it a little
do.
bit. It's somewhere. I mean, I have it. It's closed for repairs right now.
Well, I wanted to tell you, I'm going to be in Houston for the weekend of April 20th
Okay.
event, and I would love to link up with you. And I'm going to bring out that fun side of you because
Okay.
we still have time to celebrate. Um,
Okay.
but I'm gonna wrap this up a little bit, but this has been an amazing conversation with you, Fallon. Like,
Yes. Thank you.
I am so grateful and honored that you joined me tonight. You, like I said, have been so instrumental in my survivorship and my no longer feeling alone because you were that, like I said, I keep saying you were that first person I met who was like diagnosed at around the same time as me. We're the same age basically, and we're just like writing this crazy shit together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you made me feel like less alone, and I really appreciate you. And I just want you to remember that just by being you, you're an advocate. You define what advocacy looks like to you. Like for me, I might be going through TSA and they're like, "Oh, I like your nails." And I'm like, "Well, they're blue because."
Yeah.
That's advocacy. Sharing your story on here, that's advocacy. Sharing it with one person, that's still advocacy. Like advocacy, we define what advocacy looks to us because as patients and survivors, we're naturally advocates.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to figure out on my own during that 10-year existential crisis.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that being an advocate doesn't mean being on the news. It doesn't mean being in the magazines. It doesn't mean, being on some podium at some conference speaking. We advocate every time we tell anyone about what we've been through, or we explain that they're at risk or push them to get a colonoscopy if they haven't. That's our advocacy work. So that advocate is within you, that voice is within you, and whatever your advocacy looks like, that is for you to decide and define. And so I want you to know that advocacy doesn't mean going to all the conferences. It doesn't it we define what advocacy looks like to us
Yeah.
because we are naturally advocates going through this. So
Yeah.
I want you to know that. And I don't know if you saw the comments, but I just want to go through them one quick time again. Your mom is extremely proud of you, and I'm really glad that you have each other. And she says that you also keep it real. And she said blessings to me, blessings to you, Miss Renee. I love you for being Fallon's mom. You did a wonderful job raising her. Um, and then my friend Paul is just checking in. And my friend Antoinette, I would love for you to meet Antoinette. She is a rock star advocate. She's like a 20 plus year survivor.
Yeah.
So she says, "Thank you for your bravery and willingness to share." And my friend Tim says, "Hi." And Miss Renee is saying, "Thank you." Fallon, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on tonight. I mean, I could go on for hours talking to you.
Thank
So
you so much, Shannon.
no, I am so honored that you joined me. I mean, like I told you, my first few episodes I'm dedicating to being able to thank those who got me through. Thank those who took me from feeling lost and alone to no longer feeling lost and alone, and who inspired me and gave me strength. And you're one of those crucial people. And so I'm just really grateful. And I'm grateful that we get to celebrate Dressed in Blue Day together, first day of March. Like
Yeah.
it's just perfect how it lined up.
Right. And I honestly I didn't realize that. I was just like, oh my gosh, today is Dressing Blue Day, March 1st. So yeah, it aligned perfectly.
It did. And I'm just glad that you're doing so well. And we can definitely have other conversations about things that you want to discuss. So
Mhm.
just hit me up. I mean, if you want to talk about mental health or being a single mom through this, like any other topics, this isn't a one conversation and done.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
survivorship has so many layers to it.
Yeah.
So, I love you, and
Me
I'll meet you
too.
back in the green room or the blue room. I'm calling it the blue room because everyone has a green room, but my room has to be the blue room. So, because it's Blue Couch Chat. So,
Exactly.
I'll meet you in the blue room shortly. I'm gonna give
Okay.
my ad lib outro.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people tonight. You definitely helped me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me live. If you're joining me on the replay, thank you for joining me. Please click like, please comment, and most importantly, please share. Like, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I am not monetized. I just want to help people. I just want to share people's stories because everyone's story can help at least one person or save at least one life. This disease, colorectal cancer, is a really shitty disease, but the worst part of it is that it's pretty much preventable. Just do a colonoscopy, no matter your age, like we said, whether you have symptoms, if you have symptoms at any age, please urge, even if it's your child, to get a colonoscopy done or some sort of testing. I was stage 3C. My colon cancer did not show on a CT scan. It was almost stage 4. So I pushed for the colonoscopy because just getting a scan is not necessarily enough. Furthermore, if you do a Cologuard or other testing and you get a positive, please make sure, especially us Black people, please make sure you follow up with the doctor and you get a colonoscopy. Only 25% of Black people who get a positive Cologuard or other type of test that is seen as a option to a colonoscopy, only 25% of us follow up by seeing a doctor or doing a colonoscopy within 2 years. Within those 2 years, you could be dead. So what's the point of doing a test, finding out that it's possibly positive, and not doing a colonoscopy? It might just be a bleeding polyp or some tumor DNA. You might catch it early. So please just do the colonoscopy and don't sit there not following up because you're fearful. Because this disease, as awful as it is preventable, it's beatable, and it's treatable. And like in my case and Fallon's, it's possibly curable. So let's do that. Okay. If you're 45 or older, please get your colonoscopy at any age with symptoms. Colonoscopy. If you have a family history, colonoscopy. Let's do it. The colonoscopy is the golden standard. It's the only way to prevent this disease by the doctor actually seeing polyps and removing them before they can become cancerous. So I push for that over everything. If you're scared of the preps, there's lots of new prep options where you don't have to drink that nasty gallon of liquid that everyone hates. So please hit me up if you have any questions or any concerns, or you want to know what kind of preps there are and what they entail. Please ask me. I'm kind of crowning myself the colonoscopy prep like pro at this point. I did my last prep on a plane and it was not that bad. I didn't spend the entire flight in the bathroom. I only went once. So contact me. Also, please like, share, comment, and let everybody know about this. And especially if it's helping you or there's somebody that you want to get more information or support, I'm here. If you want to be a guest on my show, please email me at bluecouchchat@outlook.com. Let me know if you want to be a guest, or reach out to me on any of the socials that this is streamed on. I'm on all socials as myself or as Blue Couch Chat. I look forward to seeing you next week. I have some special stuff that I'm going to be doing that is completely out of the norm. I will not be here in my living room. I will be out at Colorectal Classic and Fight Series calling Congress as well. So hopefully I'll be doing some live streaming and speaking to some people there and showing you what all of these awareness events are about, because this is March. This is our month. So I love you. I hope to see you next week. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for all your support. And thank you so much for showing us so much love.